Welcome to the Explainer. There's something that touches basically every part of American life, from where you live to what you do, and that's social class. So today, we're going to break it down.
All right, so let's just jump right in with a question. If you were to slice up American society like a pie, based on social class, what do you think that pie would look like? I mean, who gets the biggest pieces?
Well, the answer might actually surprise you. We hear so much about the 1% and, the struggles of the poor, but the reality, the working and middle classes, together, they make up a whopping 90% of the population. When you look at it that way, the upper and lower classes are really just these tiny slivers of the whole pie.
So this chart gives us a pretty good bird's eye view, right? But class, it's just so much more than four simple boxes. If we really want to understand the differences in daily life, in opportunity, in just experience, we're going to need a better way to look at it.
And that's where this idea comes in. Instead of a pie, a lot of sociologists like to think about social class as a ladder. It just gives you a much clearer picture of all the different levels or stratifications, as they call it, in society. And here it is. This is that social ladder. As you can see, it breaks society down into 6 different rungs. And what's key here is that it's not just about money. It's a mix of education, what kind of job you have, and your income. So, what do you say we climb this thing? Let's start at the very bottom and work our way up to see what life is really like on each level.
Okay, so our journey starts at the very bottom, on the lowest rung of this ladder. And that first rung we come to? That's the underclass. This group makes up about 4% of the population. For people here, life is really defined by instability. Education might stop before high school graduation, finding steady work is a real challenge, and income, well, it's usually under $10,000 a year.
And look, these aren't just numbers on a chart. This represents a life of serious struggle and deep, deep economic uncertainty for millions of people. All right, let's move up one step on the ladder. Here we find the working poor. This is a bigger group, about 16% of the population, and they face a whole different set of tough challenges. I mean, the name itself, the working poor, tells you so much, doesn't it? It tells a powerful story that for millions of Americans, having a job, it just isn't enough to get out of poverty. We're talking about people like laborers, folks in the service industry, salespeople, all working hard and low-wage jobs. And this is where we see one of the clearest ways to climb that ladder we've been talking about, education. I mean, the data here is just so stark. Your chances of being in the working poor go down, and I mean way down, with every single level of education you complete. It's also really important to look at who actually makes up this group, because it might not be who you think. It could really challenge some common stereotypes. Get this, the single biggest chunk of the working poor isn't single moms. It's actually married couples with kids. Okay, moving on up another rung, we get to the working class. Now, this is a huge group, 30% of the population. You could really say this group is the backbone of the entire American economy. Think about it. These are the folks who build and maintain the country, right? Factory workers, people in clerical jobs, skilled craftspeople. Most have a high school education, and on average, their income is around $35,000 a year. Okay, so for a second, we're actually going to skip over the next couple of rungs, the lower middle and upper middle classes. And that's a huge group, by the way, almost 40% of Americans. But we're going to jump straight to the very, very top. Why? Because I want you to see the most extreme contrast this society has. The gap between the bottom and the top, it's just staggering. So here we are at the very top of the ladder. This is the capitalist class. And it's a tiny, tiny sliver of the population, just 1%. We're talking about incomes that are often over $1 million a year. And that money, it's not coming from an hourly wage. It's coming from things like investments and top executive jobs. This cartoon, I think, just captures that huge gap so perfectly. It's really a visual metaphor for the social ladder we've been climbing, isn't it? It shows that massive, massive distance in lifestyle, in security, in opportunity, everything between the people at the bottom and the people at the very top. So, okay, we've climbed from the bottom to the top, we've seen this incredible economic gap, but that brings up a much bigger question, right? What does all this actually mean? What's the real impact of this on a person's life, on their well-being? And that really brings us to our final thought here. We've seen that American society isn't just a simple pie chart, it's this really complex ladder with all these different rungs. And the data is crystal clear.
There are real connections between your education, your job, and where you end up on that ladder. So the real question to leave you with isn't just, can money buy happiness? It's something bigger. It's, how does the very structure of this ladder, the way it's built, shape the opportunities and the lives of every single person on it? Definitely something to think about.